Okay. So I looked at your profile again earlier and
Mhm.
saw that what's a good way to summarize this? Basically, your work really is around moms and kind of helping them to create identity and self after having children. Is that
Yes.
okay? Okay. Okay. I was like, a good way to summarize it. Um, and I think that's such an important conversation because honestly, I mean, I got the feeling that you're working more with moms newer to motherhood and that struggle in the transition. But honestly, it really everything that you would apply there applies to when your children are transitioning to adulthood and they don't need you as much, which is such a good feeling, but it's also incredibly scary. And if you haven't really done that work early, then it's a weird little spot to find yourself in.
Yes, exactly, and that's the warning, I think, what can happen if you don't do the work early on. You wake up in 10 years and you're like, "Where did I go? Who am I now?"
Right, exactly. Okay, so I'm assuming you have children.
Yes.
Okay.
2.
And so was this a struggle for you after having children, kinda like not knowing how to separate yourself from them and what that was supposed to look like?
More that I knew I always wanted kids, and then once I had my first son, I was happy and engaged with him, but anytime that I started to take a break from him or put him down, I was left with this, like, numb, empty feeling, and I was like, "What is going on with me?" So that's what made me first say, "I need to take a look at this and see what's going on, like, where have I gone?"
Yeah. So would you say before you had him that you had, pretty steady hobbies and interests?
Yes, I think that's what it is exactly, is I had a very strong sense of
Mhm.
self. I didn't have kids until I was a little older, so I was in my 30s when I met my husband, so I already had created a nice balance for myself. I was very in touch with myself, and I had all these good routines in place, and I just figured that would carry over after I had a baby, and then it just blew everything up. In a good
Yeah.
way, but also in a "what happened" way.
Right. And
Mhm.
so do you think that that happened because maybe we think there's gonna be more of a natural inclination to continue those routines and hobbies and stuff?
I don't know what I thought at the time, but I remember having this overwhelming feeling like, "Why didn't anyone tell me this?" Or, "Why
Yeah.
doesn't anyone talk about this?"
Mhm.
Because it felt like everyone around me was very happy to be a parent, and I knew it could get overwhelming. I would hear people talk about complaining about their kids or having to have wine at night, but I didn't quite understand the loss of self until I experienced it for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, that was such a good point to my next question because I'm wondering if, because before you have kids, especially when you're pregnant, and especially when you're pregnant because you're receiving a lot of unsolicited advice. Like,
Yes.
that is the absolute worst. And so you're
Yes.
kind of going, really? And comparing a little bit to like, I remember taking some mental notes of like, well, I don't want to do that, or
Right.
maybe that's not gonna work for me, and then especially the ones that were just so rude in their unsolicited
Yes.
advice, like, "Ooh." But I wonder, in that time where you're kind of forming a motherhood thought or plan in the best that we can while we're pregnant and have no idea what we're talking about,
Right.
um, did you at all consider, like, how you wanted to show up with an identity after, or did it all just kind of like, "Oh, I should have probably thought about this more?"
I think so 2 things, because I think 1, the unsolicited advice was all parenting advice, like things to do with my baby or to my baby, most of which I was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that," or, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to do that anymore." Like, most of the unsolicited advice was not helpful and did not really come from people that I would totally trust to give me advice. And then also, I think I don't remember I don't remember how you phrased that question, but I had another point, um after he came, I think that I had a good plan in terms of taking care of him. Like, the parts that I thought were going to be hard, the sleep deprivation, the always having arms full, all of those things happened and weren't as bad as I thought.
Mhm.
What I wasn't expecting was the way I felt. So I
Yeah.
think that's what was surprising to me. And it was also like I didn't understand what I felt because here I had everything I wanted. I knew I wanted to be a mom. I was so lucky I got to stay home with him. Like, so I was very aware of my blessings, but I still felt like something's missing or I have to do something because I want him to really know me for me as he grows up. I don't want him to see me burnt out and like a shell of myself.
Well, and I think the excellent point that you're making is that it took a level of awareness for you to see what the disconnect was
Mhm.
in identity, because oftentimes women are not able to identify that in that postpartum struggle. They just know they aren't happy.
Right, and
That it's
surviving.
not meeting their expectations in some way, but they can't identify what I know. I personally had pretty bad postpartum depression with my second and my third. My second, that happened because his birth was traumatic, but also what
Mm,
perpetuated it was I was finishing up grad school. So once I did, I was like, what now? Because I had been living semester to semester for years. Like when I had my first kid, I got serious about college. And so I always had that to link into for that
right.
source of identity. But
Mhm.
I was still not knowing how to validate myself. Like I knew nothing about who I really was. This has just come in the last couple of years. So I'm young and struggling to, but like, okay, well, I have school to validate everything
Mhm.
about me. So when I wrapped it up after he was born, I really remember being like, so what? You just like wake up and go to work every day now? Like, what do I have to live for? Like, what is there to accomplish? I don't know what to do with this. And I probably wouldn't have shared that with anyone anyway because of who I was, but also I didn't even have the vocabulary for it because
Right.
that phrase didn't make sense to me. But really
Mhm.
it is just that link to identity. But I mean, I hadn't really formed one before motherhood, let alone in the
Right.
midst of two babies. And then the third one, um, I think I thought I had a more solid identity, but I really didn't, again, outside of what I did for work, and I didn't
Mhm.
have as part of my identity what I truly like to do for fun or how
Mhm.
I light myself up or like now I can go, I've started this little finger knitting thing. Like there's several different
Right.
like checklist items that I don't have to do with anybody else even.
Right.
So
Right.
like I know how to entertain myself, but man, that took practice.
Yes. And that's what it was for me too. Once I asked the question, it took me a while to get the answers. It was more just an overall like what is wrong with me? Like why do I feel so tuned out? What is wrong with me? And then from there, it took a while to get some of those answers. And then I just kept adding on. I think one is you could get so caught up in the day to day that you really only hear that voice of what's wrong with me or what's going on if you get a little quiet or you
Mhm.
slow everything down because it's so easy to just keep going. And then,
Mhm.
like I said, you wake up in 10 years and you're like, what just happened? Who am I? So I think one starting to find that quiet in those early years was when I would start to hear that voice.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I also think it just makes such a strong point that when you learn how to take care of yourself and care about yourself, you will incorporate quiet because you know
Yes.
it's important. You will get rid
Yes.
of that baby for a little bit so that you
Right.
can take care of yourself versus like, and that's the thing is, I think, like, I'm thinking of a friend of mine, when our kids were small, we weren't around each other a lot when they or at all when they were infants, and they're about 18 months apart, so those oldest ones. And so I remember in talking about our infant experiences, she really like she co-slept. Uh, she loved every ounce of spending every minute with this child. I've never been that way. I'll do infancy pretty well, but once they're into toddlerhood, it's so hard that I needed way more breaks than, like, anyone else I knew. But, like, what would you say to women who are like, "No, but I love this being the only part of my identity. Like, I love it so much because I think you can believe that consciously or, and subconsciously still have a need to pour into yourself as a human being.
Yeah, I think there's a couple answers for that, and I think the main message that I have anyway in my book is that it's not one size fits all. So everybody's different. Everybody experiences motherhood differently. Every child is different. Some people, like you said, have traumatic births, have colicky kids where you just are getting no sleep. And some people have perfect babies that sleep, but it's more a chance to get to know yourself. And I think even if you feel like, oh, this is the best thing to ever happen to me, I'm so happy. I think there's always room to explore a little more because I think so much comes with motherhood. Like, even if you're loving every second of it, there's still the chance to learn how to heal from your own childhood. Like, there's no way to become a parent and not have things come up about your own childhood. It's just that's that's the nature of it. There's no way
Yeah.
to not go back and heal some of your own things or, see what you want to do differently than your own parents did. And not in a way to blame your parents, but there is some kind of processing that happens there. So I think there's room for everyone, even if you feel like you're at the happiest point of your life. I think it's a missed opportunity if you don't try to dig in a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like what I was just thinking of was just women that I've heard say like, but I feel like I was born for that. Like this was my purpose was to
Mhm.
be a mom. And I'm like, I don't disagree with you. Like if that's what there's no greater important job than the job you're doing with your children. So I'm not negating that, but I'm
Right.
also seeing how your wounding is contributing to your burnout in this role,
Mhm.
and that you
Mhm.
probably need to treat motherhood like any other job where you have built-in break. Like, if you truly want to be the best you in this
Right.
role, then you have to treat it like other jobs where you're taking a step back when you need to, and you're asking for
Mhm.
help, and you're delegating, and you're letting people show up for you imperfectly, all of these things, because I don't know a mother who's not super burnout at any stage of
Right.
parenting if she's not like one area of her life is suffering if she's not asking for help
Right.
or taking a step back here and there and
Right.
understanding what those wounds from childhood did. They created that perfectionism. They're making you, I mean, that
Mhm.
I lived in overdrive. I wasn't hitting that mark of perfection, obviously, but it was like, no, I have to be this so that I can prove to myself and everyone else that I'm not my parents.
Right, right. Well, yes, that pressure is real too. But I
Yeah.
think also I think self-care is very phrased or very directed towards moms as like escape from your kids, get away, get some time away, and that's all good. But I think the more important advice is come back the best version of you. And
Yes.
that's what I realized too, that the more I took care of myself, it became one of my parenting jobs to take care of myself because now I can show up the most present, the most patient, not resentful when I am with my kids. So I think even if you're the perfect mom, at some point you're going to get resentful if you're not taking care of your own needs as well. And
Mhm.
you want to model that for your children. Like I want my boys to see me take care of myself. So they
Mhm.
know, okay, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to take care of my partner when I grow up. Like, I don't want to be the mom that's like, oh, she did everything for us and she never thought about herself. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
that said about me ever.
No, I agree with you. That's so funny that you said that because I have lots of friends whose kids say that about them, like, on their birthday, like you're
Mm-hmm.
posting on Facebook or whatever. And I've been to a lot of funerals because I used to work in hospice. So like I've heard
Oh,
all of that. And I kind of made a decision too, like, yeah, I'm okay if my kids were like, she was real good about saying no to something if it wasn't in her best interest.
yeah.
I remember I watched that movie Bad Moms, I think is what it's called, with Mila Kunis and Kristen Bell and all them.
I never saw it,
I
but I've
think
heard
that's
of
what
it.
it's called.
Yeah.
I watched the first one just as a girls outing or whatever. And At that point, I was making, my girl was, like, in infancy still, but my boys were in, like, elementary and middle school, I think, and, I was still, like, making breakfast and, like, packing a lunch every day,
Mhm.
and mind you, that was, like, a habit I started at some point just to make myself feel like a good mom, literally, like, I was like, "Oh, let's pack lunches, that's cute." Um, that movie made me go, I don't actually enjoy packing those lunches in the morning, like, at all, actually. Like, that's
Yeah.
not something that, I feel happy to do. Like, I would feel happy, um, writing the little note to put in, you know what I mean? That
Yeah,
was it.
yeah.
Like, because 'cause I'm not a morning person. I don't want you to talk to me in the morning. I don't wanna have to do extra things in the morning. Especially at that phase, I've gotten to be much more of a morning person, but, like, at that age, I really wasn't. So, like, I fucking hated doing it,
Yeah.
and so I was like, "You know what? I think it's okay if I don't do this anymore," and I just stopped, and my boys are so sad. But I was like, "I don't like doing it," and I don't think that, like, when I die, that's gonna be a thing that's talked about, is like, "And then
Right?
I really missed the way she made my lunches."
Well, and that's the thing, you choose what works for you, and you leave what doesn't, and if something's making you resentful, then change it. And I
Yeah.
think that's where we go wrong is that we think everyone's the same and every book is the same
Mhm.
advice, but it's not taking into account everybody's different preferences, lifestyles, children. Our kids are all different, we're all different. So I think that's where the importance of getting to know yourself comes in because then you can make
Absolutely.
decisions like that from a stronger place. Like, I know this
Yeah.
doesn't work for me, so I'm not going to do it anymore, or I'm going to find a way around it.
Right. Well, and I think too, to that point, I think this is also why we struggle as moms to have mom friends, because
Mhm.
if you are at all judging anything another mom is doing, it's because you are not super secure in your own choices. Period, period,
Mhm.
period. And if you think there is one way to do any of this, again, you're not on the right frequency here, because there is no one way. I mean, God knows I've been guilty of that my entire parenting journey here and there, especially when I was a really insecure new mom. Because if you made a choice that was different than mine, how am I supposed to feel validated in my choice? Because I didn't know myself and I didn't have identity as even a mom. I didn't know what kind of mom I really wanted to be. I just knew I
Mhm.
wanted to be perfect and not like mine, you know? And so I think, yeah, that's causes a lot of problems in our little mommy groups, because it's if you're not doing things from a place of love for yourself and your child and your family, it all comes out as judgment, all of it. And then you
Well, and
really do
that's the
expose
thing
that.
too, it's not just self-care and taking little steps. Part of self-care is letting go of comparison, letting go of
Mhm.
judgment, and the stronger you get at it, the more it trickles over to your life outside of motherhood. And
Yeah.
especially when it comes to your kids, I feel like I've always had a little bit of I don't really care what people think, but I've gotten stronger since I've had 2 boys that are very high energy because there's always gonna be judgment, no
Yes.
matter where we go, no matter who comes to our house. So I've gotten very strong in honoring my connection with them over what other people think. And
Oh,
that's not the same as being inconsiderate. Like, I try to make them aware to be considerate of other people, but being considerate and worrying about what other people think are 2 different things.
very
So,
different.
I've just accepted the judgment. It's always gonna be there because you don't know. Some people didn't have boys, some people didn't have kids like that, some people hate kids, some people can't have their own kids, and your kids will be a reminder of that. So,
Yeah.
the more comfortable you get with it and the more you can let it go, I think the more you're able to let it go outside of motherhood. And I
Mhm.
think that's one of the gifts is a lot of things you can cultivate during motherhood, you can take with you into other areas of your life. So it can really transform you as a person if you let it.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think too that that's motherhood is a whole phase of life, and it should transform you. And
Yes.
these are lessons that should be taken into other
Mhm.
areas. I mean, that's what this whole show is about, is learning yourself and sharing that with
Mhm.
others and being cool with other people doing it differently. And
Right.
yeah, I my daughter is 11, and
Oh,
she's
my
the
son
only
is
one
too.
that Oh, really?
Yeah, my oldest is 11.
Oh, well, she's the only one that I've managed to really, really hone in on this don't put someone else's opinion over her comfort thing,
Mm,
and it did make me realize how much I did of that when my boys were young. Like, even just the forcing them to hug a relative or
right,
and I had very high energy boys too, lots of judgment, and it didn't the way it impacted us was then I was just constantly trying to look like a perfect mom and correct them in front of, but I was loving about it, but like inside, I'm pissed at the entire situation
right.
and no one's having fun. And even like at the park, I just quit taking my children to the park because I would spend the whole time making sure they were following all of the rules so that they didn't at any point inconvenience anyone else. Like, no, up the stairs, down the slide, up the stairs, like over my children weren't listening to that rule, okay? They wanted to just run up the slide. But
Mm.
I just was like, "No, we act perfect in public. What are we doing?" So, like, those poor boys definitely got the brunt of all of my little people-pleasing tendencies, but I'm learning still with
Mhm.
her how to just, like, make sure she's comfortable, but that
Right.
takes me being strong in who I am,
Mhm.
but I wanna model that so badly that that's what helps me every single time. That and her choice matters and her feelings matter, and I want
Right.
her to understand I value those things for her and with her, but boy, it's not always easy. Like,
No.
every single time I'm like, "Oh, I have to be assertive. I don't want to."
But don't you feel you do get better at it? Like, you get stronger at it the more you do it. So,
Yeah,
it
and
takes
there are some
recognizing first.
parts of that
Mhm.
that, like, you just it when you are just so, like, centered in who you are, that some of the times you have
And
to
who
be
your
assertive. It's
child is.
just
Mhm.
yes, it's just second
Mhm.
nature. There's
Yes.
just certain times that it's like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah. It's hard not to go there because that's how we've been conditioned to be.
Yeah. Well, and I think too that, I think a lot of my mom friends, because I probably was the one constantly preaching about like some form of self care in the limited understanding that I had at it. But I think so many moms do feel because they are, especially in that infant phase, like some moms truly just love that, the contact naps, the all of it,
Mhm.
like, love it so much, and so I think when you're talking to them about identity being important, they feel so defensive because it's like, "I'm having a good time, what," like, "Why are you constantly criticizing me?" So I think just tone of this conversation matters too, and just educating moms in general on, like, how to love yourself because you will never show up as fully as a
Mhm.
mother if you don't.
Well, and everyone's different, so maybe the infant stage is wonderful for some women, and then at some point they're probably gonna hit something where they start to ask those questions. So that's why it's like, okay, it's all here for you when you're ready to find it. And
Yeah,
everybody's different, and that's okay.
yeah. So what were some of the things how did you start to even stumble into solving the "what is wrong with me"?
So with my first, when I had that first moment, it was after I'd put him to bed. My house was perfect. My husband wasn't home from work yet. And I remember just sitting there feeling like I couldn't move. And that was the first night that I really began to get curious. And then I started to journal more. And I started to take advantage when my husband was home on the weekends. I at least would leave for 1 hour. Even if the baby was napping, I'd hand him over, take my journal, and leave for an hour. And the more I did things like that, the more I really heard my inner voice screaming. It was like I almost like had to turn up the volume on my own voice. And each time I took quiet or made a decision for myself, that volume got turned up.
Yeah.
And I had a few of these tricks in place before my second was born, but then once my second came, it was like all hell broke loose.
Yes.
So and that's when I was really overwhelmed, and we moved to a new house. It was a very crazy, stressful time, but I think if I hadn't already begun that work for myself, I would have really lost my mind. So the second really threw me into chaos, and I had to double down on everything I had started doing. And then it just got easier and easier. It was like the more I put myself first and the more I accepted that I count too, and that it's actually my job to show up as best I can, then once it became, like, for them, it made it even easier to go for it without apologies, and to ask
Yeah.
for the time or take the time, and make sure I was using my time wisely too, not just distracting myself to numb out. I didn't wanna numb out, I wanted to feel all the things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that's been really important for me too, was I had to start learning to say no to them. Oh, like some of the like, can we go here? Can we do this? Because I was not in a good place. And every time I said yes, we all regretted it. Like, we weren't having a good time because I wasn't in a like place. I didn't have the capacity to handle any part of that outing. And
Mhm.
but the guilt would creep in, or the desire to be perfect, or ignoring my own needs, self-abandonment, all
Right.
the things would happen, and then we didn't have a good time. So that actually helped
Right.
me to learn too, like,
Mhm.
do you wanna go traumatize your children more, or do you just wanna say no? Do the hard
Right.
thing in the moment and say no,
Right,
and
right.
which ends up being the easy thing when you see. I mean, I was causing real stuff, like, it wasn't good, and so I started to, like, program myself to believe, "Yeah, well, is it gonna be worth it if you abandon yourself right now?" Because, honestly, you're setting your kids up for failure too, because anytime
Right.
self-abandonment happens, like, okay, well, we've got a level of resentment already, no matter if you're
Mhm.
conscious of it or not, and then if they're not acting perfect in effort to show you gratitude for your self-abandonment, which there's always that transaction when you self-abandon, if whether you are aware of it or not, you are expecting something in return, and
Mhm.
I see this over and over and over with moms, gratitude. Your children aren't going to be able to meet your needs in that moment, I promise you. There's nothing
Right.
they can do to be grateful enough because they're kids, and they only see things from their perspective.
Right.
So, that's what would happen is I'd go, and then, I'm not getting what I felt I needed in return for this great sacrifice that I made. So what if we just don't do that? Because you
Right.
don't have to abandon everything you need, even if you're not meeting your own quote unquote standards at the time. Obviously, something's happening internally if you can't make yourself do some of these things that you used to get enjoyment out of.
Well, and I think too, trusting yourself enough to know, like, I've had times I've gone against my own voice and I'm like, all right, I guess we'll do that. And then we're in it and I'm like, see, I knew that this
I
was a bad
knew.
idea. And so then the more you trust yourself, the more you know before you make the decision, like, okay, I'm trusting myself on this one. We're not doing this. This is not going to work for us. We're just setting ourselves up for failure. And also, like the thing you said about meeting your needs, like, you have to meet your own needs because your kids are not here to meet your needs. Like,
Right.
you're here to meet their needs. So your job is to take care of them and take care of yourself. They shouldn't have to take care of you, and they're never going to be grateful enough for any of us, but it's really yes, they should be grateful, but it's not their job to meet our needs. Like, we have a responsibility to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of them. And I think
Yeah.
that's yeah,
Well, and that's one of the biggest things I've seen with, like, moms who really struggle with some of those childhood people pleasing wounds, is that they really do expect their children to have a level of gratitude that will never come. And I'm always like, they didn't choose
right.
to be born.
Right. And
You
they're
brought
kids.
them here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, what are you, if you are over sacrificing, stop, so
Yeah.
that you're not expecting something they are not physically, emotionally, spiritually capable of providing to you. They
Right,
cannot
nor
give
should
you
they.
gratitude.
They've
Right.
got enough to do.
Right. They're
Yeah,
they're they're trying to, like, figure out the world for themselves, but
yeah,
I see that a lot where, and truth be told, my grandma, who was my primary caregiver, that's, I think, the reason I noticed this in other moms, is because that was something she really did well. If you're not even gonna be grateful, and grateful meant, um even if you're tired and hungry, which I've never been able to tolerate stress under, like, you give me a little bit of hunger, a little bit of tired, or
Yeah.
mix the combination of 2, it is DEFCON 5, okay? So, like, but you must remain, perfect in the best spirits, um, and then also be so thoughtful that, like, in that middle years of childhood, that you come in and you clean the entire house because I did this nice thing for you. All these expectations. And it was
Yeah.
like, I mean, as a child, all I wanted was to please her. So if she had asked me to do something, but then that's the other thing moms do too. I ask you to do one thing after I do all this stuff. And it's like, okay, they're not your husband. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, they're gonna bitch a little bit, and you got to be okay with that a little bit. Or stop
And
self sacrificing.
exactly, the more you take care of yourself, the less you will expect that or resent that or any of that. So it's like
And the
art.
better you know yourself, the better you're
Right,
gonna understand their reactions to you. Like,
right,
where you're not taking every little thing personally, because that's what my
right,
grandma did too. It was all about her. Every single bit of our behavior was communicating to her whether or not we cared about her, valued her,
oh
and
boy.
loved her, and appreciated her, which is so
Oh,
sad,
yes.
but we were
So
set up for
someone
failure.
didn't do that for her when she was a child, most
Right.
likely, right? Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
she had her own stuff, but, like, then that's how the cycle perpetuates,
Mhm.
and honestly, I've found myself several times there's been lots of things over the years where I've been like, "Oh, I kinda wanna say something my grandma woulda said right here. I'm not going to because I remember how that felt, but, interesting. A, I'm kind of understanding why she did that, but B, I know it wasn't healthy, so where am I right now?" You know what I mean? But
That's amazing that you think that though, and it doesn't just come flying out of your mouth because
well,
that's
there were some things that
right.
did.
But
But
it's
the big
funny how
ones I've
that
tried.
happens too. It's
Mhm.
like things you don't even want, but it just comes flying out because it's just what you heard. So I
Mhm.
think if you go in that autopilot, that's more likely to happen too without
Yes.
stopping and thinking about it.
Yes. Yeah, and really, honestly, what we're really getting down to the center of here is developing yourself as a human and
Mhm.
how it is extra important when you take on the identity of mother because you have chosen a great responsibility and not because you're ever going to get it perfect, but you'll be much less likely to accept that fact if you're developing your humanness
Mhm.
while living in that identity.
And I think too, because we have this chance to unconditionally love our children, I think it's also a chance to unconditionally love ourselves. So
Mhm.
we have the chance to reparent ourselves and heal a lot of things. And then that can go on and on and on and on and break
Yes.
all those cycles, hopefully.
Yes. Well,
But when
because I
you
think that
love
it's
yourself, that
different.
you have so much more love to give.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's so hard for me to explain this in terms of like motherhood because that love is just so easy and free to access. But I think it's kind of our first like hit of that self-love because you don't unless you're cultivating that intentionally, you've
Mhm.
never really felt that kind of love before. But I can feel the kind of love that I've always felt naturally for my children about myself now, too. I
Mhm.
can get in that exact same energy, but it is only that love that truly exists. The self-love is all the love that you're able to give to your kids, you just don't recognize that you're seeing, parts of you in that.
Mhm.
I don't know, I can't explain it well, I'm tired, but uh, yeah, I think you are much more likely to repeat the patterns of your childhood negatively
Yes.
if you are not being present and
Right.
mindful, which you cannot be unless you're being intentional about developing yourself as a human.
Yeah, and hearing your own voice,
Mhm.
making sure you're hearing your own voice.
Yeah, well, in childhood, we are so disconnected, especially as women. I
Mhm.
have seen this more in women than I have in men. The way we are programmed very explicitly to disconnect from ourselves. But also, I mean, children in general are taught to be compliant. That's the first way to get us to disconnect from ourselves.
Right,
And
right.
so, if you've turned off to that inner knowing way a long time ago, and then you throw yourself into the busiest of times of your life, which is
The
to raise the
pressure
kids.
cooker.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
goodness. I mean, no wonder so many moms are walking around with anxiety because
Mhm.
anxiety is only bred when you are in that disconnection from yourself because you don't
Yes.
feel safe in your own body. So
Right.
then you just jump to overthinking and your nervous system's out of whack. And
Mhm.
people don't understand that. Like, you may not understand that you are dysregulated until you're constantly jumpy or
Right.
worried or, but
Right.
like connecting with yourself is so important.
Mhm. And you can't help regulate a child if you're not regulated yourself.
Nope, and that's where I've always struggled because mama was reactive to everything in my
Mhm.
environment 24/7 just from my own trauma, but this is something I'm still developing because my 11-year-old has big feelings, okay?
Yes,
And she's my
yes.
only girl, and I just don't understand some of the girl stuff, okay? But,
Mhm.
like, it's taken because I've really, really done, like, so much growth and evolution in about a year and a half, okay? But it has taken in the last, like, 4 months for me to be like, "Oh, right. It okay. I have to be regulated no matter what she
Mhm.
does, and
Mhm.
that's how she gets regulated. Not, "Please, I've asked you nicely, and you just won't do it, and now I'm gonna lose my shit on you," and all the things, which does still happen, don't play. But
Of
the
course,
work
yeah.
really is in me going, I'm safe. Don't
Mhm.
let this trigger my own fear and my own shame because,
Mhm.
fear and shame are so big when you're like, I can't even make this kid shut up. What? Like, or they talk back or they're being mean or whatever. And I'm like, you're safe. This is how we ground. This is how we whatever. I have to be so focused on
Yes.
that and not all the whiny BS over here to not get dysregulated. But that's co regulation.
Mhm.
I'm not saying this to you. I'm saying this to audience because some of my audience members are teachers too, and so I'm like, I'm never explaining this very well, but I think I got it this time. Co-regulation is not about letting the child get away with whatever and dismissing them and what it's about you staying so regulated no matter
Mhm.
what this child does, whether you have to provide a consequence,
Mhm.
remove them from a situation, whatever, that you are steady and calm throughout at least 90% of that.
Yes.
And that is how change happens with
Mhm.
a child, is that they see safety modeled for them
Yes.
because you have learned how to stay safe within yourself. Because we don't explode at children or adults in general if we are grounded and
Mhm.
feel that safety.
Yes, I agree, and especially with the 11-year-old because I feel like they try to poke and they want a reaction.
Ah, you know it. Ah,
But it's forced me to just get stronger. It really has, because I can double down when I need to, and I'm just like, "I'm not gonna give you the reaction you want." Like, I'm not gonna do that, just like I'm not gonna say, "I don't love you right now." Of course I love you. I'm upset that you did that, but of course I love you. And I feel like they push extra hard because they need to hear that and they need to see, "Okay, mommy's still okay. Like, she's still calm. I can talk to her
yes,
about this. She can handle it.
yes,
I'm allowed to have this now. I can be the one
yes,
upset." Yeah,
yeah, and am I safe
right,
to show you who I am in this moment?
right,
I'm not safe if you're not safe because I have to protect myself if you're not safe.
right.
And so, like, if you're gonna be chill, then I'm just gonna go, be an ass, and then we're all gonna be okay in about 5 minutes. But truly, it is I am learning with her specifically, so much of it is just a bid for connection. So much of
Mhm,
it gets so convoluted because she's tired or hungry. She's just
right.
like that way. Like you don't let this baby get tired. And also when she eats sugar, she just becomes crazy. Like it's kind
That's
of
how my
wild.
little one is, yeah.
Really? People
Yeah.
think that I'm like one of those sugar high kind of people and whatever. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm telling you, she becomes aggressive when she eats sugar. I
Well,
don't know
because 'cause
what
you're her mom, so you know. That's where the knowing too. Like, we
exactly.
know our kids. Yeah,
Yes, and I'm like, I let her eat it, but
yeah.
I'm telling you
But
she
you
becomes
brace yourself.
aggressive. Yeah, yes, yes. Every time I'm like and I'll even say like, "Will you please do your best to stay chill? If you eat this ice cream, just please do your best." And she's like, "Yes." And she's starting to recognize it though, but I
Mhm.
didn't know this about myself, that I too become aggressive when I eat sugar until I saw it in her. And then I was like,
Ah.
"Wait a second. That actually happens to me too." And it's really just because we crash really fast
Mhm,
from it. Like
mhm.
our
You
blood
need
sugar
some
tanks so
protein with
fast.
it.
Yes, exactly. No, I will. I'll be like, "If you'll eat a beef jerky afterwards."
Yes, that's what I say to my son. I'm like, "How about a chomp first, and then you
Yeah,
can have the sugar?"
yes, yes, oh my god, I feel so seen right now because people don't believe me. They think that I'm like, "Dude, we love junk food around here. What are you talking about?" I'm not, like, trying to shelter her from junk food.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you she becomes a nightmare that I don't wanna
Yeah.
deal with. Ugh. But 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 in those times, what do we as women want when we're tired and just kinda bitchy? We
Mhm.
want some cuddling, we want some TLC, we want
And
someone to take care of
validation.
us.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm starting to shift the way I see those interactions too. It's so much easier. Like now, well, but see, before I wasn't a cuddler, like because I was so dysregulated all the time that like, don't touch me when I'm upset.
Overtouched. Yeah.
So now it's like so easy for me to just be like, come here, baby. And she's like, okay.
That's my
It's
favorite
so
part
much
of
easier.
motherhood is the cuddles.
I'm
That's my
starting to
favorite part.
really like it. Like,
Yeah.
for me, it really just was. I was so I could be touched out when I woke up. Like touching me
Mhm.
was a really big trigger because I
Mhm.
just was. I mean, so burnt out in
Yes,
life.
and
And
overwhelmed. Yeah.
yes, yeah. I mean, I was in survival from the time I woke up till the time I went to
Mhm.
sleep, and I just had no idea how to deal with it. Everything agitated me, and I didn't
Yeah.
take care of, like, my vessel itself. I would go till, like, 4 p.m. without eating. I wasn't drinking water. I used to drink nothing but Diet Coke, all the like, when the boys were little, that's who I was as a mom. So, I mean, I don't know why I was so pissed all the time, but then also just shaming myself to death for
Mhm.
feeling like, I remember crying so hard when my oldest was, like, 18 months. I had to call my grandma and be like, "I didn't say it to him, but I wanted to tell him to shut up." And she was like, "Well, you didn't even say it. Why are you so mad at yourself?" I'm like, Do mommies wanna tell their babies to shut up? Like, that doesn't feel right."
I think many do, actually.
Oh, I've said it plenty of times since
Yeah.
then, but, like, at the time, it was, like, a first time I felt really frustrated with him, and I was like, "That's not what moms do,"
Well,
but I
and
didn't have
that's the
any
thing too,
idea.
like how you just described, like feeding yourself. Like as soon as the baby comes, we care so much. We are so careful about what we feed them, when we feed them, and then we don't do that for ourselves. And we're
Mhm.
healing too. We're also a patient right now, especially after you give birth. So I feel
Yes.
like that can really be one of the first steps to taking care of yourself too. It's like, okay, I have to put myself on that list. When did I eat? What am I eating? Am I going to the bathroom enough? Am I drinking enough? All of those things. We do it for our babies, but we have to start doing it for ourselves too.
Absolutely. No matter what stage of motherhood you're in,
Mhm.
you gotta make sure that you're showing up in your best self, or else
Yeah.
what good is any of the things you're doing anyway?
Right.
Because you're you're not gonna sustain that forever. You're not gonna
Mhm.
be perfect mommy forever if you're literally neglecting
Or
yourself.
you'll hit a breaking point, and that'll be even
Mhm.
worse than whatever numbing out you're doing. That's a little scary.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I think so much of my breaking point happened because I really thought I had to be perfect, and I got to a place where I really thought my children would be better off without me mostly because of my reactivity, because it was getting to this point where they couldn't ask me for anything without me, like, feeling like I was failing them
Mhm.
nonstop, you know? Uh, but yeah, I think had I understood how to develop myself and how to take care of myself, because really a lot of the self-care themes out there really are like a bubble bath, a
Go get a
massage.
pedicure. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and it's like, "No, baby, eat breakfast." Like,
Yeah.
eat some protein, make sure
Sleep.
you have some fiber in your diet
Yeah.
so you're not constipated.
Yes.
Please, for the love of God, at least have 8 ounces of water. I know you love the
Mhm.
Dr. Pepper, but drink the water, even just 1 glass. Like, get you to bed early one night, choose sleep over the quiet time that
Right.
I stayed up. That was the thing I did with the boys. I would be up till, like, 3 a.m. just for the quiet because I stayed at
Right.
home too.
Right, so you
Choose to
finally
sleep.
get the time, so you're like,
Yes.
"I can't sleep now, I finally have the time." Yeah, I
Mhm.
know
Or,
that feeling
to
too.
make sure my house looked perfect
Right.
because that's what good moms do is keep that house perfect. So yeah, I mean, choose sleep 1 to 2 nights a week instead of your quote unquote
Mhm.
alone time.
Yes.
Those are the ways that we take care of ourselves. Taking time to breathe and stretch
Mhm.
and like
And
1 to 2 minutes.
to know what you need. So again, like just
Yes.
knowing yourself, like I know if I go this many nights without going to bed early, I'm going to crack. Or I know if I eat this at this time, I'm going to feel horrible. So I
Yes.
know myself and now I'm going to take care of myself.
Absolutely. So just cultivating the information, like go and experiment. What,
Mhm.
you know, usually I think we know one thing that would be easy to start doing for
I think
ourselves.
sometimes we have trouble admitting it, but I think we know deep down if we get in
Yeah.
touch. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Especially like most people know if they need to drink more water. Like even
Right.
I don't drink anything except for water and some coffee in the mornings, but like I don't drink enough water. So, like,
Right.
I already know, like, "Oh, I've gotta increase my water. I've gotta increase
Right.
my steps because I can feel my tummy not happy."
Yeah.
All sorts of things. But the more you do that, the more attuned you are to yourself,
Mhm.
and that just, like, helps you in every way.
Right. And then you're also modeling that for the kids. So I feel like
Yes.
it's a win-win.
Yeah, because my daughter is actually pretty decent about being like, "I'm going to bed." Like, because she just knows that, like, "Okay, I've
Yeah.
had enough for today. I'm tired,"
Right.
or she's, like, started to ask for, like, the cuddles instead of just throwing, like, a giant fit for you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
she's learning what she needs when, and,
That's amazing.
before I could get, like, super regulated to keep to help co-regulate it, I'd just be like, "Girl, what do you need?" Like, and I just start going
Yeah.
down the list. But also she like, because I used to be a school counselor, she understands the zones of regulation really well, and so, like, I'd be like, "Okay, honey, are you in the red? What is going on with you?" And she understood, at least in theory, what it takes to get so
Mhm.
I have always been like, "Do you need cold water? Are you hot? Like, that's not gonna help, what do you need?" So I do think, this generation is getting a lot better information,
Yes.
but you're the one that they're watching.
Mhm. Mhm. Which is a
Right.
blessing and it can be a lot of pressure, but when you realize how much power you have too, I feel
Yeah.
like it's very empowering to like, okay, the better mood I'm in, the better everyone else is. So like I feel like that can feel like a lot of pressure, but can also be a gift. It's like, okay, so this is one of my jobs now is making sure I'm calm and centered and happy. That's not such a bad job.
Right, yeah,
Mhm.
it benefits me just as much as
Yeah.
them,
And it's like my
and
responsibility. So it's
yes.
like you have to do it now. So that
Mhm.
to me makes it's like a non-negotiable now.
I totally agree. I love that. Well, I have loved getting to talk with you and have this conversation. Tell us where we can find you and tell us again about your book.
So the book is called In the Weeds: A Guide to Saving Your Own Soul on This Crazy Journey Called Motherhood.
Oh,
And
I love
it's on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, and Walmart.com. And then I also have a website, which is cindycapriowolf.com, and the links are on there as well. And you can also message me on there too if you want to reach out.
Oh,
Happy
okay,
to
cool.
connect. Yeah.
And I'll make sure I include that in the show notes and stuff.
Okay.
Well, I've loved having you. I think this is really gonna benefit women out there listening, and I just really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Melissa. So nice talking to you.
Thank you. Hey, I'm gonna push stop if you'll hang out for 1 sec.
Sure, sure.
Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share.